Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and a very good evening, everyone. Uh, let's begin our session with Umar Kita Al-Fatihah. Bismillah. Okay. Firstly, respected speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Shukrimi Awang, professors, associate professors, doctors, welcome to our another research talk, which is tips in writing clinical research application grant, personal experience from Prof. Shukrimi. Thank you, Prof. Shukrimi, for agreeing to do this talk. Thank you so much. So let me introduce to you our speaker today. So he's a distinguished academician and researcher at Kulliyyah of Medicine, IIUM Kuantan. He earned his MBBS back in 1997 and Masters of Medicine specializing in orthopedics in 2004. So both from University Science Malaysia. So his notable academic journey includes significant administrative and leadership position as the head of Department of Orthopedics, okay, becoming an advanced researcher, okay. Dr. Shukrimi's research portfolio is comprehensive and impactful, centering on the primary orthopedic innovation, trauma management, diabetic foot complication, and the developments of biomaterial. Among his notable projects is the evaluation of osteopaste, an innovation injectable synthetic bone cement developed in Malaysia. Additionally, his studies include biomedical analysis aimed at the enhancing surgical outcome for orthopedics procedure and fracture management. He has secured considerably research funding from prominent resources, including from CIRIM, okay, from RICS, okay. His scholarly contribution includes numerous published articles in a STEAM journal, covering a broad spectrum from the orthopedics issue, including pediatric fractures, diabetic wound care, congenital deformities, and also psychosocial effects associated with amputation and chronic orthopedic conditions. So his expertise is widely recognized internationally and evidenced by regular invitation to the press to present his research finding at prestigious conferences across the globe. Locally, he has significantly contributed to advancing orthopedic education and practices through active involvement in professional association, particularly on Malaysian Orthopedic Association. Furthermore, he serves as an external examiner for the orthopedic examination under Malaysia's Ministry of Higher Education, showcasing his commitment and to nurturing further medical professionals. So his dedicated contribution significantly enhanced both clinical practice and academic excellence in the field of orthopedics. So without further delay, let me welcome Prof. Shukrimi. So Prof, are you ready? You are muted, Prof.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, Prof, we can hear you.
All right, okay.
The floor is yours, Prof.
Okay, thank you very much for Roslina. I think the introduction is too much for me. First of all, thank you, Prof. Roslina, for the invitation to talk into this session. She asked me in her last day, the tenure as head of research, to give this topic. So I will try to cover this topic based on my experience, especially on the application of clinical research grant. Sorry.
You already shared the slides, Prof.
I just want. Okay, so this is basically what I'm going to cover. We start with introduction of the grant, and then just to revise what the core component of clinical research grant. After that, discuss a bit on the tips how to write a clinical research grant based on my experience. So first of all, what is grant? Just let's review what's grant. So basically, grant is a financial award designed to support a person, organization, or project or program to achieve a specific goal. Okay, a grant are provided by the institution funder. Like for us, we have like SUSMED research grant, RICS, and so on. All right, and scientific grant basically are a key element in development of science, especially in the field of medicine. And when we for our field, medical research grant application, basically, it's a process of writing a proposal to secure funding for program, project, research, or educational goal. This is what we do as a academician or clinician. So for us, why we apply grant? Why we apply in the grant? What's important the grant for us as clinician and academician? Basically, we apply grant because we want to uh, to to improve our evidence-based practice. We can have a new discovery, and as a academician in our institution or another institution, this grant also can support our career growth, because one of our KPI or APAP, they want to see whether we have grant or not. And then as usually we get the message from head of research, you are not the principal, not holding any grant. So this is our responsibility to get the grant also. And of course, by doing that, we enhance our institutional prestige. Okay, if we have a good grant, we have a good project, and then of course, eventually we will raise our research profile. And for academician, we would like, when we have a grant, we can train our future researcher from the postgraduate or our junior lecturer. And if you have a big grant, for example, some of the grant we can provide the allocation for equipment or labs, like what Prof did for the grant in orthopedic research lab. And of course, we can translate the practice into research. When we have problem, we want to solve a clinical problem. For example, later I share what my experience is. And again, fulfill academic role and expectation. Prof Jamal will ask you, where's your grant, where's your paper? So that's why we need to have grant. And last but not least, when we have a grant, we can foster collaboration either by with the other department, other Kulliyyah, or with other university. If you have big grant, FRGS, maybe you can have a collaboration with other clinic. Okay, so let's quickly we go what are the core components. Everybody knows about this. Just go through a little bit on this. So of course, the grant basically start with project title. Okay, project. What is important in project title? Project basically we need to have a very clear, concise, and descriptive title. And usually the title not so long, maximum maybe a 20 words. Okay, what is important in this project title is it should be scientifically important and relevant, and usually as when you present the research grant, preferably novel, your idea. Okay, so if you can come up with a good project title, and then you can catch the reviewer interest. Second thing is basically we need to prepare a good abstract or executive summary. Usually they ask about 200 to 300 words. This abstract basically is a mini version of your proposal. You need to sell the idea. We have to define the problem, state the hypothesis, okay, and we describe our methods and explain why it's matter in a simple language. So this is what we need to put in our executive summary. Okay, why our research is significant and unique features of the grant need to be mentioned here. So the background and the significance of the research grant is the next item that we need to prepare. So in this section, what we need to do is we need to define our clinical problem, what we want to study. And then we have to go back and do a literature review, what already known about our problem, clinical problem, what are still missing. So in this area, what is important is we have to explain the gap of our study that we need to fill, and a good background and significant area we need to end with the study is aimed to and so and so. So this is what we try to write in our proposal. Next is regarding the research question, research objective question and hypothesis. This one need to be clearly defined our main aim, and usually in this area we need to break down into 2 to 5, not more than 5 specific objectives, because if you have more specific objective, you need to usually 2 or 3 is enough lah, kan? And state the hypothesis is relevant to our research that we're going to conduct. Methodology. In this methodology, this is usually the reviewer like to see this area because they want to know whether our study is feasible or not. Okay. This methodology must be very specific. What is design, what the sample, what is the inclusion and exclusion criteria. And of course, they want to know also what is our sample size. This is what we need to justify with a good statistician discussion prior to our submission of the proposal. Okay, and then you want to know also how we're going to collect the data, what is the outcome measures, and then ethical consideration need to be clearly explained. Next is expected result and impact. Okay, expected result and impact. What are the anticipated outcome from our research? Why do they matter? Will they change the clinical practice? Are we going to produce a new policy? Or we introduce a new knowledge in our field? And of course, if we can have outcome that potentially for future research application or for liberation. So if we can clearly state what is expected result and good expected result and impact in our clinical proposal application, so the reviewer will look at this and chances for us to secure the grant will be high. Okay, project timeline, basically, of course, we know that we need to plan properly using a Gantt chart or monthly plan and show a feasibility within grant period, because usually they have the period of the grant, for example, 2 years or 3, of course, 2 years. And then if you think that you need to apply for extension, and then you have to apply accordingly. But supposedly we should finish our research within the stipulated time given by the funder. Budget and justification. This area need to be clearly written. We break down properly into personnel, equipment, travel, and publication. And then we must justify this item clearly. Why is it essential? We need to justify that. Okay. Next is research team and the role. So in this area, we need to highlight the experience and the role of each member. If you have 3 or 4 members, we need to justify why you ask them to join your grant, and include collaborator if in case of multidisciplinary research grant. Okay, and then we have to provide references of our literature review. Why? And then you need to follow what is us using a consistent citation style. Okay, this is basically everybody knows about the component of the grant. Basically, this is what I want to share a little bit the tips when writing this, what I did before. Okay, and in preparing this talk, I refer some of the points from this article and evidence-based guide to writing grant proposal for clinical research, because in this paper they give the idea from the reviewer point of view. So first of all, first thing that we must prepare the grant that align with a funder's priority. So we must know who is the funder. If SUSMED research grant, you know that the funder mission is what? The themes of the Islamic Sharia compliance and so on. And then in this part, we need to use a relevant keyword that follow the grant punya priorities. And we must show that how our study support their goals. So of course, you want to ask the grant from somebody, you must follow what they want from you, and in terms of outcome, equity, or innovation. Okay. Second thing is, I'm sure that you for me, I apply the grant. I also have the experience to become a reviewer. So when we write the grant, we need to see not only from our point of view, but we must see from our assessor or reviewer point of view also. Because you must remember that we are expert in our field, but when we apply the grant, the reviewer may be not in our field. So we must write so that they understand what we're going to apply for. So for that, we must use a clear, concise, and jargon-free language. Okay, very simple, so easy to catch the reviewer of your interest, and ensure the proposal is self-contained and easy to follow. Okay, so must be very clear. Okay, they are the first time to read your proposal. They may not be expert in that field, but you must write it properly. Okay, so when we get the announcement, we know the announcement when it's going to open, so we must start very early. Don't wait until the end of the grant because it takes many weeks to polish a good grant. To produce a good grant, you must start early. You cannot just, okay, wait the last minute. Okay, some of us, we wait for the last minute until we get a new reminder from our boss. Okay, please apply for the grant, and then we have only 1 week to prepare. So it's not good. So we must start early. So when we have the project, we start early. So probably maybe you take about 1.5 months before deadline because we need to maybe need a preview by our senior mentor and our colleague also. Okay, so it's very important to stress the significance of our project, our study. So we must clearly show why this research is matter, why it's important, what is the importance of our research. Okay, make an impact obvious even to non-expert. So this is not easy, but of course, with training and with practice and with advice from the senior and with the mentor, so you can come up with a good grant and ensure your question is clear, focused, and answerable. And don't be too ambitious until that nobody understands your grant. Okay, next point is we must emphasize the clinical impact of our study. Highlight how the finding can improve maybe diagnosis, maybe treatment, or maybe a care pathway. Okay, and this kind of real world applicability. This will change whether this grant will change the protocol of the practice in certain places in our hospital and so on. So we must clearly emphasize on this to get our attention by the reviewer. Okay, this is very important that we need to prepare very good abstract. Okay, abstract must be clearly present our problem, the problem that we're going to solve, the research need, okay, hypothesis and method. And important, okay, I remember that I attend the 3-minute presentation by postgraduate. Professor always ask, what is the unique of your study? So what is the novelty? So of course, you must find this point when you write the grant, emphasize the uniqueness and the significance of the study. You just cannot repeat the same study done by previous researcher. Okay, it must be concise, engaging, and sustain reviewer interest throughout, so that when the reviewer read your grant, you will like to read further more and more until the end. Okay, it's not easy also, but of course it can be done. In terms of methodology, it must be very clear. Use a well-defined study design, specify your inclusion and exclusion criteria. Like I mentioned earlier, justify your sample size with a calculation. You may need to discuss with your statistician before that. Detailed recruitment, ethic timeline, and so on. And important that you must avoid vague and overly ambitious plan. This is sometimes we want to overdo. Okay, sometimes we overdo because we want to make sure that we are better than others. But sometimes it's overkill also. So we must be clear on this. Okay, certain study, maybe you need to start with a small study like pilot study to get a preliminary data, so that with that data they can demonstrate the feasibility and the commitment of the study. Okay, and also boost confidence in the project impact, but not all. But sometimes this is important in certain type of research. Okay, so if we have a good topic or good problem, a good research title, it's better that we have a multidisciplinary team because they can increase, reflect the clinical complexity of our research. Okay, of course, as usual, if you can have your statistician, other personnel like assign, other kuliah ataupun other university to join your research. Okay, because this is what can enhance our project capacity and the funder confidence of our grant, our proposal. Okay, and not to forget that we must make sure that we address the ethic and risk properly, outline the risk and benefit, because especially when you are dealing with the patient or even you are dealing with the animals, this is very important. Okay, and then in terms of data confidentiality, if you involve the clinical trial, plan for adverse event, Okay, and then it must be targeted with intervention or vulnerable group. We are dealing with patients, so we must make sure that all this we anticipate and we do the necessary thing properly. For the budget, we must use a budget with justification. We must avoid the weight item like miscellaneous expenses. That one, because you have no idea what you want to write, you can write miscellaneous, and the miscellaneous maybe more than the actual grant, and you maybe take more than percentage is more than what is written for the important budget. So miscellaneous should be avoided. You must clearly need to write clearly, justify each expenses, and then link cost of specific project needs and activities. Show a long-term vision. In this is what I mean is briefly highlight how your research could maybe our research will lead to a larger clinical trial or implementation study, or our study may come up with a clinical guidelines or may influence the health policy, and our study can lay down a foundation for future career development grants and funding opportunity. If we have a good grant, we can show that based on our study, we can have further bigger study that can change the treatment and so on. So it's good. Some study may require a letter of support. Sometimes that we need to use certain facilities, hospital, institutional data, to access the clinical population or collaboration with other department or partners. So we have to see whether our project require this or not. This is important also. If we can have the idea what was the research done before while reviewing the successful grant, if we had an idea, so it's better if we have review the grant before to provide the idea whether we don't want to repeat the same thing. We center that it can understand, have to understand what is ongoing studies, identify and answer research question. And most importantly, we want to avoid duplicating existing work. This is what always been asked during our whether your study is just replication, just duplication. The study have been done somewhere in other university, has been published and well known. So we don't want to repeat the same thing. And by review the successful application, so we can gauge the priority and interest of the funders. Of course, we are required to highlight what we're going to use as a plan. We use like Gantt chart and the flow of the studies clearly. Important for us when we have already complete preparing the grant, that before we submit, we share our draft with our mentor or our senior successful grant recipient before, senior researcher, so we can get their idea or their comment. So by doing that, we can gain valuable feedback to strengthen our proposal before the submission. And this is very important that we have to follow strictly every formatting instruction. Grant proposal that don't comply with guideline may be written without review. It's as simple as grammatical and typographical may frustrate the reviewer and suggest carelessness. So sometimes we just write everything and then when the reviewer reach, this is typo error. This is so this is to show before you get the grant, you already not so concentrate, you are careless. So how they are going to approve your grant kan? So this is attention to detail lah, maksudnya attention to detail. Because they can reflect our professionalism and strengthen our grant application. So it looks simple, tapi it's quite significant. So what are the common mistakes that we should avoid when you apply the grant? Important that we must make sure that our grant don't have a lack of clarity in research question. So the research question sometimes is very vague, very unclear. So how are you going to get the grant kan? So of course we need to make sure that our grant is very clear to the reviewer. Insufficient background and significance to justify the study. Usually this is because we don't do a proper literature review. We don't review the previous grant, or we do a last minute punya application lah. So we just see, yeah, okay, and then you just submit. Hopefully the reviewer just ignore this. No, kan? So we must prepare properly. Poorly defined study design and methodology. So this one very important lah, because the reviewer will see whether your study is feasible or not. Kan? Inadequate consideration of ethical issue just now. Okay, sometimes if you deal with patient, you deal with animal, and then you not clearly mention what you're going to do for the patient, the ethical issue. So this is very important part that you need to make sure. Okay, again, I emphasize again, over-ambitious objectives that are unrealistic with the proposed timeline and budget. You want to do a lot of things within that, the budget and the time. Maybe your budget is just 20,000, but your studies patutnya maybe 50,000, 100,000. So over-ambitious. For sure that the reviewer said that this one, you're not going to finish within 2 years, and then the budget is not adequate. Okay, so this basically briefly that the tips that I followed, and I take some point from the previous paper that I showed to you, and I just want to share a bit of my experience, right? I applied the grant before lah. Okay, so I start with the research problem. What's my research problem? So as an orthopedic surgeon, I often encounter children when treating a patient present with injury from dog bites or wild boar, wild dog bite. So how such the wound will be cleansed in according to Islamic jurisprudence. So when you go to other hospital, or when you are in orthopedic, surgical, or MF, when you have patient come to you with dog bite, so you know that if you just clean, you just do a debridement like usual, like other wound, it's okay. But from the Islamic point of view, are you doing enough, adequate or not? So that is my maybe this is not a major issue, but sometimes it's okay. So if we do the standard way of managing the wound, yes, from the wound management point of view, it's okay. But are we follow the Islamic jurisprudence or not, especially in our mazhab lah, mazhab Syafi'i kan. So my study is on Sabtu. Basically, what is Sabtu? From Islamic jurisprudence, particularly in mazhab Syafi'i, Sabtu is a method to purifying impurities from dog saliva and pigs, or najis mughallazah lah, basically. Okay, najis mughallazah. Okay, so then what is the need for this research, this Sabtu research? Because we want to know, is there any standard protocol available in our hospital, or even it can go up to the level of clinic kesihatan, ED, and so on, because this case you can see in the clinic kesihatan, in GP, and so on kan. So what material are used in the process of Sabtu? Is it scientifically proven, is safe and compliant with Islamic principle? And of course, there is a commercially available material, but how effective of this clinical, commercially available Sabtu can be used for wound cleansing. So this is my problem with this research that I want to study. Okay, so of course, when SUSMED offer ataupun open the grant from the cycle 1 and cycle 2, so I take this opportunity and apply for the grant. So the first thing that I mentioned earlier is we must align with the fund priorities. In this case is SUSMED research grant. So we know that SUSMED is a Sharia compliant hospital. Okay, so when the study is on Sabtu, cleansing the wound that contaminated by najis mughallazah, so there's nobody doing this study yet in the hospital. So of course, the SUSMED is become with the Sharia compliant hospital. They always get the question from other hospital, from KK, how to clean the wound when contaminated with najis mughallaza. So it's quite relevant with my study. So we hope that with this study, you can provide and develop standard protocol that consistent with Islamic jurisprudence. So to start with, I invite a collaboration, develop collaboration with other team. Myself, Prof. Amin from Com, Kulliyyah for Engineering, Prof. Zuraida and the team, and then from Susmet Scholar. So this is quite a multidisciplinary team and expert in different areas. Of course, the Kulliyyah Engineering will provide the material, okay, and we will test, and Islamic Scholar will help and advise us on the Islamic aspect. So for this, I plan to do it in 2 stages. Stage 1, to produce the medical grade certain material. And in stage 2, we would like to test it clinically, whether in terms of safety, in terms of effectiveness, and so on. Okay. So project title, what is the suitable project title for this research? So again, that I mentioned earlier, it must be clear, concise, and descriptive title, and scientifically important, relevant, and preferably novel. That's what the idea that we have to come out. So we come up with this title, Medical Grade Product from Clay for Cleansing of Wound and Surgical Instrument in situ Procedure. So we use medical grade product, so something that is different from commercial. So something that, okay, can be used for the medical purposes, not only for to clean the wound and also the instrument. Okay, because remember that when the wound is contaminated with najis mughallaza, when we clean, not only the wound, but also the instrument that we use. So we want to study until that point. Okay, so abstract executive summary, what I put here is we mention here that what the problem with najis mughallaza, how it need to be clean, okay, and what hypothesis that we're going to use. Okay, so everything we put here in concise manner, and to mention that the significance and the unit of the feature, because none of the study was conducted before. The one that used commercially available substitute was not tested scientifically. Okay. So define the clinical problem. We see that traumatic wound by dots is a common problem, but there's no specific protocol, approved protocol available. So this is the missing study, and then we want to fill this gap. So, and end with the study aim to statement. With this, we want to come up with that protocol and the material first lah. Okay. So this is basically the research hypothesis. The part 1 is basically how to produce the material. Okay, and the part 2 is to the application of it. So research question, 2 or 3 research question and hypothesis. Okay, methodology. So briefly and simplify into a flow chart like this. So easier for the reviewer to study, to read, and to understand. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. What you start with? What is the raw material and what will be done in phase 1, and come up with 2 phase of solution. So this is for part 1 and part 2. Okay, we select the suitable patient, and then it's the process of what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to test. Okay. Yes, expected result and impact. This is what we want to highlight to the reviewer and the funder. Okay. So we want to develop a clinical protocol to be used by all hospitals, if possible, for managing contaminated wounds and surgical instruments due to extreme impurity with najis mughallaza, and provide scientifically effective and Sharia compliant material for SERP2 process. This is our expected result. Okay. And the output, product of Sharia compliant to be used. Okay. And the publication as a requirement by the funders lah. Okay. So expected result, provide protocol, produce, and then produce potential. If this is effective, probably for commercialization later lah. Okay. So what are the outcome of my research? Okay, this is my team. This is the outcome. For phase one, this is what we call a sub-2 product of a clay that is being processed into a solution that can be used to clean the najis mughallaza. Oh, of course, there's a protocol also that I not presented here lah. This is our team from SASMED, from Amin, and then from Kulliyyah of Engineering. Biomaterial. Okay, and we managed to come up with protocol for SOL2 that can be used in SASMED. Okay, and this SOL2 also we present to get the approval from Mufti Fatwa, Majlis Fatwa Negeri Pahang. Okay, and then Prof Amin present the protocol in front of Mufti, but this is Timbalan Mufti. Mufti have to rush to other meeting, but we present this and we get the approval of doing this the protocol by the Jabat Mufti. Okay, also the study also we Prof Amin present in international conference in Turkey, and with full paper was published in their book, scientific book. Okay, and another publication in the journal, Malaysian Journal of Fundamental and Applied Science. And our team also present the outcome of this research in SciTex, and Alhamdulillah, it was managed to get special award and this gold award. Okay, and also we sent for copyright of the protocol of the characterization of the SER2 material. I think that's about all that I want to share. So as a conclusion, we must start with a clear research question. Your question drive entire proposal, make it focused and relevant. Ensure a logical alignment, match your objective with the right design, method, and analysis. Keep it simple and ethical, design a feasible study, and prioritize participant safety and ethics. Plan thoroughly, write clearly. Structure your proposal well, and clarity show credibility. Seek guidance and learn by doing. Last but not least, a well-written proposal is not just paperwork, it's a blueprint of your research success. With that, thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Shukrimi. It was an excellent talk with the wonderful tips and also your personal touch over there. So I open the floor for any question. Any questions from the participant? Prof. Shukrimi is one of the top top applicant, successful applicant for SASMEC research grant. So therefore, I invited him for him to share his experience. Prof, I wanted to ask, just now you mentioned that when you put the literature review, can you use an old literature review? That means, let's say, if people have not done this work on CERT2, you can use that old literature review, or how, Prof?
Okay, I think because this is the new, I mean that now nobody doing this research prior to this. So I think the old literature will give us idea and will give idea. And of course, in any application, we need to support with latest literature also. But the old literature will give you the idea what are the problem in the past. And so of course, without the old one, you don't have the new one. But the new one is important to support to make your process stronger.
Any questions from the members?
I think they all understand because it's quite simple, straightforward. Your process, my thought.
Yeah, but it's a good tips, Prof. I also learn new things from you now today. Uh, so any questions from anyone in the chat box or anything if you feel shy to ask? So if there's no question, can we adjourn, Prof? Are you
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
So So thank you so much, Prof. Shukrimi. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone here to come in for our talk today. As you all know, that today is my last tenure as a HOR, last day as a HOR. So I would like to apologize for any shortcomings from me. Thank you so much for all your kind cooperation and also assistance throughout my journey as a HOR. So I wish you all the best for your research. Thank you so much, everyone. So can we close our session with Tasbih Kifarah and Suratul As? Thank you so much, everyone. Assalamualaikum. Thank you so much, Prof.
Welcome.